Okay, we are going to start with not only my favorite subject to teach this whole year, but it's honestly just, I think, the most interesting and best and coolest subject that exists in science at all, and that is space. So, where do we begin in space? Well, we'll start really, really big as you can go. We'll talk about the universe. So, what is the universe? A couple of videos here that will give you some information about it, but in short, universe is everything. We sometimes call it the observable universe because it encapsulates everything that we can observe to exist everywhere, right? So it's all of space, it's all of the galaxies, the stars, the planets, moons, everything together that we know to exist encompasses in what we call the universe. And there may be more beyond that, right? Like beyond what we see, there may be a whole other layer of stuff that's just beyond our horizon that we'll never actually be able to know. And that stuff we don't call as part of our universe because we may never access that. It may be that in 10 years time or whatever that you see this, we're going to know that the universe is twice as big as we originally thought. And that's really cool. But that just shows like how much more we've been able to see. Doesn't mean that it actually necessarily got bigger in that time. We just were able to observe more. So there could be parts of the universe that we'll never be able to know about how big and cool and awesome it is. And that's just something that we're going to have to deal with as being humans. But let's see what our place is in the solar system, like our place in space, let's say. So the universe is the biggest. It's everything, right? Now, if we zoom into one specific part of the universe, because the universe is unbelievably big. Your mind cannot comprehend how big it is. But if we zoom in, we get to a place called the local supercluster. What that means is it's close to us where we are. We're in it. That's why it's called the local one. And supercluster means it's a whole bunch of galaxies. It's lots of galaxies together. It may not be obvious in there, but there are tens of thousands of galaxies most likely within this picture right here. And if we zoom in on the local group in the local supercluster, we have a couple of galaxies right here. This is the biggest one, right? And then a couple of smaller ones right there. If we zoom into the biggest one in the local group, well, that's us. That's the Milky Way galaxy. That's the one that we exist in. The Candy was named after the galaxy, Milky Way. Why is it called Milky Way? It's because of the way that it looks if you're looking from our perspective down into the middle of the Milky Way galaxy, which it's really difficult to see unless there's no light pollution. It looks like someone spilled milk all over it. And if we zoom in to one particular part of the Milky Way galaxy, then we get to our solar system, all of the 8 planets that orbit around our sun. And then if we zoom in, well, that's us. That's here on Earth. And then you would be more specific if you were doing your address. You would be like, okay, I exist here in Altapan, in Bergen County, in New Jersey, in the United States, in North America, on planet Earth, and then we go all the way up there. So our first definition I'd like for you to write down is a galaxy. A galaxy is a large grouping of stars, and large is almost laughable in terms of how large it actually is. It's unbelievably large. It's too large to even think about. It's a large grouping of stars in space, and they're all held together by gravity. So if you notice right here, this is what it looks like from our perspective. So if you're looking into the night sky, you can see this. But really what you're doing is you're staring into the center of the solar system, which would be right here. And by the way, fun fact, this image is obviously computer generated. Every single image you've ever seen of the Milky Way galaxy is not actually the Milky Way galaxy, because every picture you see that's the Milky Way galaxy, it's the entire galaxy. But how can we take a picture of the galaxy unless you're outside of the galaxy looking back on it? And we've never left our galaxy. We're not even anywhere close to doing that. So this is just a computer model that what we think of what the galaxy is like. And notice how it's all orbiting in the same direction around the center form of mass right there. So the biggest center of mass is in the center of that galaxy right there. There are 3 different types of galaxies, 3 major types. Basically, it could either be a spiral galaxy, and I'll show you some pictures of what that looks like. So here's a bunch of different spiral galaxies. Notice you can kind of see the spiral almost has like different arms that seem to stick out right there. So then you have an elliptical galaxy. An elliptical galaxy has a shape. It's similar to a circle, but it's just like stretched out a little bit more. And then if it doesn't fit into either one of these two categories, we have the irregular galaxy. And all that means is that these are a bunch of interesting looking shapes that just don't quite fit into anything else. So Milky Way galaxy happens to be, well, a spiral galaxy. And here's a question for you. When you look at the night sky, are you seeing the whole universe, or is it just our one galaxy? So think about that for a second. The answer is that you are looking at just our galaxy, and our galaxy is, of course, called the Milky Way. Now, interesting fact about our galaxy. So, just give a little background. This is the Hubble Space Telescope. The Hubble Space Telescope is considered to be the most successful scientific instrument of all time. Why, you may ask? More papers have been written about, more scientific papers, more knowledge has been gleaned or gotten from this instrument than any other instrument that has ever been created. So it is very successful in what it's trying to do. And what's cool is that for the Hubble Space Telescope, you need to point it at one place for a long time to get all the light to come in there so you can really get a good image of what you're looking at there. And it's really expensive. It took a lot of people to put it out there in space. And so the question is, what do we look at? Because there's an infinite amount of places that you can look at out in space. So how are you going to direct your attention at that one part? Well, what people do is they kind of write like a paper. They say, I think that we're going to discover this if we do that. Right, fine, makes sense, right? Because the time is valuable. Now, one person thought, how cool would it be if we were to just take our Hubble Space Telescope and look at nothing? Nothing at all, just like black darkness. And what would happen then? Very risky move. Maybe it wouldn't have panned out, but let's see what did happen there. So on this date, Hubble Space Telescope began pointing its camera at a small area in the night sky. Hubble Space Telescope, by the way, roughly the size of, let's say, a school bus out there in space. The area is about the 10th of the size of the full moon, and it looks like absolute blackness, so no stars visible to the naked eye. And it pointed there for over 4 months, taking in all the light that it could. So in 4 months, what were they able to see in that little black dot right there in that green square? Let's see. That's the image that came back. Now, maybe that doesn't look fantastic or amazing to you, but let's take a note of it. Every single dot in there is an entire galaxy. Now, when we say galaxy, right, that's like equal to one of our Milky Way galaxy. Our Milky Way galaxy has somewhere between 400 billion stars in it, 400 billion. And that's just one. So if each of these galaxies can contain up to 1 trillion stars, every single one of them, right? And every single one of those stars may have its own system of planets that surround it, just like ours. We think that almost every single one has. We haven't really found any that don't have some of them planets going around them. There are 10,000 galaxies in this one picture alone. And that all came from something that looked like nothing. Right? So that's pretty crazy when you think about it. When we think about what's at the center of every galaxy, the answer is a black hole. Now, black holes are fascinating. I love talking about black holes. They're one of the scariest things out there. It's the idea of a black hole is that their gravity is so intense that it pulls everything into it, and nothing can escape from it, not even light. Right? Even light, the fastest thing that exists in the universe, can't outrun it. It gets pulled into it, so there's no color to it. So that's why it's called a black hole. So in the center of every single galaxy, we predict there to be a black hole, and all of the stars are orbiting around that black hole. Most of them don't get destroyed, but if it is unlucky enough to get destroyed, you get something that looks a little bit like this. So it might be hard for you to see. Do you see this black symbol right there? So you can't really see what happens to it until another star comes into view. And when the star comes nearby, look how it gets pulled in bit by bit. And it forms a completely beautiful image right there of it destroying that star. Spitting back in both directions some of the extra parts of that star. Of course, important for you to understand that this is not a scientific real this is just a computer simulation about what we think it is, but we have observed black holes destroying stars that were unlucky enough to get too close to it.